Hello, thank you for another spiritual discussion. This is part three of the Kabbalah experience. If you have not listened to part one and part two, I recommend listening to them first before listening here to part three. In the first period of the development of the soul, below the barrier, man gets to know his egotistic attributes. He realizes that he is distant from the Creator and develops a desire to be with him for his own pleasure. If that degree is completed, it leads to a passage through the barrier to the spiritual world. The passage through the barrier is the response to the immense egotistical desire to enjoy the Creator that involves in. Man cannot correct the intent from for me to for the Creator by himself. Only when we understand our inability to correct our aim by ourselves and badly want to correct ourselves can we begin to ask the Creator for that miracle. When he sees that our only desire is to rid ourselves of the intent for myself, he reveals himself to us. Here's something I find strange about life. There are prisoners who have food and water and are content with life. They need nothing more. They don't even want to leave their prison. But then there are others who are free to walk the earth, yet feel as though they live their whole lives in prison. They will give anything to break free. The difference between these two approaches to life results from variations in our spiritual development, the development of our souls. There are people who think only of themselves or the well being of their families or even that of their city or town. Others thinks of the well being of the whole nation, and yet others of the whole world. As a student of Kabbalah, my primary goal is to perceive that I am imprisoned, that the cage limits my freedom, and that I should do anything to get out of that cage. I began by seeing that outside the cage there is another life, fuller and more beautiful than I could ever imagine. If you try to see yourself living outside of that cage, try to feel the spiritual freedom. It will be easier for you to understand the means of getting out of your current situation. The wisdom of Kabbalah is not opium for the masses because opium means deception. Why was the use of drugs prohibited all over the world? Because drugs create an illusion of freedom with severe consequences. Man feels that he is in a completely different situation. He purposely misleads his own senses. Kabbalah accomplished exactly the opposite. The first phase in the study is the opening of the eyes, making one see the world for what it really is. There are also four groups of beings: still, vegetative, animate, and speaking, which is man. Only stage four has an independent desire. As the soul acquires additional uncorrected egotistical desires, it loses its feeling of the spiritual world, interpreted by the soul as a separation from the collective soul. As a result, the soul starts to feel a more crude desire in itself called a body. This is felt by the soul as birth in the biological body. There's a state called Adam before the splitting. After the splitting, fractions of Adam, which are separated souls, descended into our world and ascent to their root, the primary Adam. Before crossing the barrier, man has only a point of longing for the Creator. Upon crossing the barrier, the point starts to grow, ascending 125 degrees steps of the spiritual ladder of the five worlds. As it reaches its root, it, it finds its original place, except now it is 620 times bigger than before. Everything that happens to man in his past, present, and future belongs to this world. There are people who can predict the future, see the past, sense diseases, and so on. But all that relates only to our world, to the animate soul. Spirituality is above the body, above the desire to take pleasure in material things. It is therefore not connected with the body. A body in Kabbalah means desire. If a person has acquired a screen, he feels the dressing of the spiritual light within. The sensation of the light, the creator, within such a desire is called a soul. The light changes according to the screen, and any change in the screen is called a reincarnation of the soul. A person in our world has only the animate reviving force, as do all other animals. If a person gets a desire to take pleasure in the Creator, a desire for the upper one, a screen may be obtained by studying Kabbalah. There is no other way. And one would then receive a spiritual soul in addition to the animate soul. The animate soul does not change, but the spiritual soul changes all the time. A Kabbalist has two souls, the animate and the spiritual. Naturally, a Kabbalist is born with the animate soul and only later obtains the higher spiritual soul. The spiritual sphere has nothing to do with our biological body. There are five desires for pleasures. One, animal pleasures with sex, family, and food. Two, then there's pleasures from wealth and social status. Then three, pleasure from power, control, and fame. Then four, pleasure from knowledge. And then five, pleasure from the Creator. Those five desires exist in all of us in different combinations. Each generation consists of the souls of the previous generation, but in new bodies. This is how mankind evolves. Souls accumulate experience from generation to generation so that everything we study as scientific discovery in this generation and all experiences and knowledge that is acquired is imprinted in the next generation as an obvious, indubitable fact. That is why children are smarter than their parents. There is reincarnation, but certainly not for bodies. The souls are what return, but only in a human body. The process of reincarnation can be understood only by obtaining the upper world, by studying Kabbalah. In the upper world, souls without bodies are tied to the Kabbalists, who are not burdened by the body and can exist in our world and in the spiritual world at the same time. How many times does a person have to live? The answer is it depends on the individual. Our souls continue to return and clothe new bodies until that moment when we are able to control ourselves completely. In Kabbalah, there is a field called reincarnation of souls. It deals with the incarnations of each individual soul, how many cycles it has to go through before it reaches its peak, and when it is in full control of itself and fully participates in the creation of the world. It all depends on the space of your advancement. The dressing of the soul in our biological body does not relate to the physical age of the body. When a person began to feel a desire for the upper world, by desire, I mean a general yearning for the upper world, it means that a soul has clothed him or her. There are many appearances of the souls and bodies in our corporeal world, and this occurs until they reach the individual end of correction. What one has acquired in this life becomes a characteristic in the next. So, really, there are two types of souls: those who are in their primarily stage and still do not feel the need for spiritual evolution. They are called still or inanimate in the spiritual sense of the word, I should say, because they do not correct themselves. They do not move towards spirituality like the still in our world. Those souls that have received a desire for spirituality from above because it is their turn to start approaching the Creator. They find Kabbalah, begin to study and correct their attributes. And their new attributes, the corrected ones, they receive the sensation of the Creator, the spiritual world. The question, what is the meaning of my life, is what motivates them. It is because of that question that they grow spiritually. Do not try to persuade anyone, and in general, refrain from speaking to people who oppose or do not wish to hear, as you will not convince them. A person should come to Kabbalah when ready. You can offer others a book, but nothing more. The conception and the birth of man and everything he does in this world arouse no response in the spiritual world. They have no effect whatsoever on the soul. Only our desires to draw near the Creator has any effect on above. I will bring part 3 of this video to a close, and I will pick up with the next video with part 4. But in ending this video, please feel free to share it with others. And if you would like to see more of this type of content, please click the subscribe button below on this channel. Also, after subscribing, if you click the notification bell, you will be notified of any new videos that I make. I would also love to have your comments and questions below. Just be respectful to one another. And again, I say thank you.